Welcome to Brainstoryum. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dreampunk and deeply weird fantasy author, and yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 87 of Brainstoryum. Now, if you listened to the last show, you'll know that the story I wrote and shared that day featured a dark fantasy comic book artist, her haunted fireplace, or inglenook, which is a recessed fireplace, and some weird vampiric creatures she met with when she fell through a cracked mirror. Well, you'll know some of those things if you listen to episode 86, but you'll know all of them if you read the entire story, which I've made temporarily available on my website. So if you haven't already, please make the most of this opportunity. I'd love your feedback, if you have any, by going to annatizard.com/weird, or see the Weird Creatures tab, which is also linked onto the Book of Exquisite Corpse page. Only during August 2025 can you read this story. Future listeners will just have to seek out the future book, in which this story is probably going to feature. I reckon so. Now, this inglenook story, no title yet, it is still just a first draft, combines two Exquisite Corpse results, one of which I've been waiting for some time on my ever-growing story inventory spreadsheet, where I keep a note of both completed tales and ones that I've started and haven't yet finished. This older writing prompt, which contained a decadent mirror and a vampire slayer, had been sitting on my spreadsheet for about a year and a half in the end. I knew I was going to use it sometime, so it felt serendipitous and very satisfying when this new, bizarre prompt about an inglenook came up in the last show, and I found myself experimenting with combining the ideas, and all the pieces just came together in one story. My ever-patient vampire slayer and mirror adventurer had found her perfect match at last. But not without some stumbling around. What I didn't tell you last time, I didn't really have time on the show, is that I initially tried combining the haunted inglenook idea with another half-finished story, also lingering on my spreadsheet, about a woman who's been murdered and becomes possessed by a vengeful river spirit. It was one of those drafts where at the beginning it sort of flows straight out of you and you half believe that the whole thing is just going to more or less write itself, just like a dream. And then you bump up against a wall and you can't work out what it needs, where it's going. Why does this happen? I'm quite fussy in a way. I need surprises in my stories, multiple surprises sometimes. So maybe that's why. Then again, it always feels like the stories themselves are fussy. I guess we work together. We're aiming to be on the same page. Boom, boom. Oh dear, that was terrible. But funnily enough, dreadful puns aside, this river possession story had already been inspired by two exquisite corpses. So for a moment there, I got really excited because bringing in the haunted inglenook would have been the first time I'd managed to write a story based on not one, not two, but three exquisite corpses. Never have I managed that yet. I tried it. It just didn't work. It didn't gel. And I think I know why. It's always useful to stop and consider why something doesn't work. In fact, sometimes for us as writers, what hasn't worked can teach us more than what does work. Stepping back from what I was doing, I realised that with 3 exquisite corpses, there were too many ideas jostling for the main focus of the story. When writing short stories, we're playing in a short space. For an idea to find its satisfying conclusion, there can't be too many ideas crammed in. In a novel or novella, you can have side characters, events that might feed into red herrings about a mystery. Could it be this? Could it be that? There's a lot you can fit in to enrich the world that you're writing in. But with short stories, we need a more singular focus. Realising this, I found that even when I was finishing off the Inglenook story in its final form, I was doing a double take because there are a few central elements here. There's the Inglenook sprite, the mirror in the graveyard, and the vampiric creatures that the protagonist, Eliza, comes face to face with on the other side. Might this be too much? I had to ask myself. But these elements fit together. They're all integral to each other as part of the protagonist's experience. It's just the way it came together. They interconnected as different aspects of one overarching idea. And funnily enough, this is also a question I have hanging over a longer story I've been writing in the background about a village haunted by its history and a giant pondweed that pulls people down into its depths. It's getting quite long, maybe 15,000 words, still in draft stage, but I found myself thinking, with this level of complexity, am I trying to fit too many ideas into this? It's tricky. The longer the story, the more you can do, but I want to keep that focus, rein in the story to a clear focus. A little time away and looking at it with fresh eyes will help me work this out. But what of the story of the murdered woman and her possession by a river? Does that mean it will never find its perfect ending if it has 2 exquisite corpses already? Would I be pushing my luck with 3? Not necessarily. I mean, there's always a chance that I will just simply realise one day what it wants, what will work best to tie it up. And you never know, that realisation might just come in the form of a 3rd exquisite corpse. And then I can celebrate having used 3 exquisite corpses to inspire one story, but only if the pieces fit together to form a single interconnected idea. Anyway, onwards and upwards, or onwards and sideways, for the writer's journey is a winding path that seeks out many hidden places to uncover ideas that a hasty traveller will easily miss. But before we begin new brainstorming adventures, I have some ideas sent in by listeners based on a word combination from the last show. And yes, of course, it had to be the infuriating Inglenook. Why would an old-fashioned recessed fireplace be infuriating? And how could this be the basis for a story? A different story other than the one I wrote, of course. Nick Vrakar said, "When Wendy called recess, Ray hurried to the Inglenook, wind whistling through the chimney be damned. He pulled out a cigarette and fumbled through his pockets, but no lighter, no matches. Wendy said, 'Need a light?' Ray saw her lighter and knew, right there and then, who did it." Who did what? Who did what? I'm not sure. Maybe she stole his lighter. For what reason? Or maybe Wendy is the one that causes the whistling through the chimney. Or there's some other mystery afoot. Thank you for the curious opening, Nick, keeping us guessing there. Alessandro Bozzo wrote, Evelyn took a lit match to the logs and tinder she'd placed on the hearth. She felt a gust of wind blow it out. She surmised it was being funneled down the chimney flue by the storm brewing outside. She sighed and closed the flue temporarily. She added a bit more kindling, struck another match, and brought it towards the firebox. Strangely, an even stronger gust of wind put out the match flame, scattering ash all over the furniture around the fireplace. That inglenook always infuriated her. So hard to keep clean. She struck a third match and brought it slowly, gingerly, towards the fireplace, only to have it blown out again. Annoyed, she peeped up the chimney flue. 2 ominous, glowing eyes stared back, startling her from the darkness. She instantly leaped back, smacking her head on the edge of a broken firebrick. Evelyn stood up and dabbed her fingers at the trickle of blood on the side of her head. Her eyes began to blur. As she collapsed onto the cold marble tile in front of the hearth, Evelyn could have sworn she saw several emaciated, grimy fingers curling around the mantel. She cursed that infuriating inglenook one last time before finally passing out. Well, this is a great opening to something rather spooky. A mischievous creature haunting an inglenook is up to something. But what? And he's prepared to injure this person for it. Thank you for your scene, Alessandro. I am intrigued. Now it is time to seek out new ideas, new journeys for our imaginations, which can only be found in the Socks of Destiny. That's right. And for those who haven't played before or listened before or just need a reminder, Exquisite Corpse mixes different players' words and phrases into a single sentence that goes describing word, noun, action, describing word, noun. And so I am reaching into the describing word sock for the first word, which is from Paul Thomas. Frightened. Okay, so what or who was frightened? Only the noun sock can tell us that. This is from the Spotlight Indie Show, because I had an excess of words from when we played for the interview, the author interview on YouTube. The word is teapot. So we have a frightened teapot. Of course we do. This is already feeling very Alice in Wonderland, but let's just wait and see where this goes. So this is from Paul Benfield. This is quite a long one because you can go to town with your actions. This is watched as the boat sailed past, carrying... I don't know why that's really tickled me, but I guess we have a frightened teapot who's watching a boat sailing past, which is carrying... What exactly? Of course, it might not be an actual teapot. It might be someone with a teapot, inside a teapot. I don't know. Let's just keep going until we get to the end. Next word is from Rachel. Welcome to the game, Rachel. Lightweight. Well, actually, lightweight would be quite good if it's being carried on a boat. It means it doesn't have to be a big boat to manage its weight. So the final word, let's see, is from Fraser Armitage. Joggler. Okay, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Altogether, we have the frightened teapot, or person with a teapot, watched as the boat sailed past, carrying the lightweight juggler. So the teapot is making me think about someone who's resting, taking a moment out from a busy life, trying to collect their thoughts. Speaking of which, I probably need to do that in a moment and pour myself some tea. But I'm thinking, I do obviously I associate it with a moment of calm or trying to work something out. I'm imagining someone at a port or a harbour or a seaside cafe. Are they expecting to see someone go past in a boat? Are they looking out for a boat going past? Expecting to see someone. A lightweight juggler. Could that indicate what he or she juggles? They juggle lightweight things, but then again, who juggles heavy things? So maybe not. I'm just trying to think my way around this. I mean, lightweight can also mean having little importance, not having much influence, I suppose. And so that's kind of like a judgment from the tea drinker's perspective. And if they belong in a circus, why are they in the boat? Are they escaping? It feels like it must be a suspicious thing for them to do. Anyway, I think I'm going to set that aside for a moment and have a look at the next Exquisite Corpse. So our first word for number 2 is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Facts. Neon orange. Okay, I think we had orange as the fruit either last time or the time before, but this time this is most definitely the colour. Next word is from KT. Persephone. Good grief. We very rarely have a specific character or person, but this is Persephone, daughter of Zeus and Demeter. And yes, I have scribbled notes on the edge of this slip for this very moment. Queen of the underworld, who was famously abducted by Hades. Some might say that Alice in Wonderland was inspired by this old mythology, this old myth, as she goes underground. Neon orange Persephone? Bad spray tan? Just saying. Right, our action is from Mariah. Found out the secret identity of. Well, I've got to move on to the next one. Interesting. If Persephone is going underground, it's like a secretive thing. She's going to an unknown place or a hidden place, and she's finding out secrets. And here she is finding out the secret identity of someone. So there's a connection there. Next, I've got 2 that have come out. I must pick one. Next word is from the Spotlight Indie crew again. Gregarious. Okay. Somebody who's very sociable has a secret identity. Last word is from Nicholas Bozzo. Bison. Mind you, bison are gregarious because they're herd animals. Okay. Okay, I think this one is even more ridiculous than the last. But at first, only at first, we will make something of one of these, for sure. So the entire Exquisite Corpse, before I pour my green tea, is the neon orange Persephone, or person who's like Persephone, found out the secret identity of the gregarious bison. Okay, I think I'm going to have to jot that down on the pause button. But first I am going to have to pour myself some green tea because it's been brewing a little while. Inspiration awaits. So what can this possibly mean? The neon orange Persephone found out the secret identity of the gregarious bison. Because I mentioned orange earlier as being potential spray tan, and because Persephone is such a sort of a pretty kind of elaborate sounding name, and because bison have really long shaggy hair, it is making me think about someone who works at a beauty salon, someone who has a way of getting under the skin of people. I think it's the allusion to Persephone, this neon orange Persephone. I mean, maybe she has a spray tan, maybe she has neon orange nails or something, or neon orange hair. She messes around with wigs or something like that. But she's creative with her appearance. Well, hey, she works in a beauty salon. But she has a way of looking deep into people, and it's the allusion to Persephone that makes me think this, the idea of someone who's going underground or into an underworld. It makes me think of that as a kind of metaphor for sort of getting underneath or getting deep into someone's psychology. She's able to read people, what's really going on under the surface. That's what that makes me think of. And this gregarious bison, maybe he's a rock star, or she, someone with shaggy hair. It makes me think of the rockers from the 80s. Strong, built like a bison. Someone who has lots of tales to tell and is very gregarious, as the Exquisite Corpse suggests. But this person working in the beauty salon, she sees under the surface and she works out the secret identity of this so-called gregarious bison. Maybe there's something you could pull out there. But what would be this secret? I often think stories can not necessarily have a change in the main character's life, but there can be a reveal, a discovery, and that can be the element of surprise. Anyway, the third and final Exquisite Corpse begins with a word from Alessandro Bozzo. Ancient. Okay, who or what was ancient? Oops, one has fallen out of the Socks of Destiny, and it is from Mariah. Leaping from the socks. Desert. An ancient desert. It's interesting when we have a place rather than a person as the noun. The next entry, which is an action, is from Tim Hardy from the Spotlight Indie podcast. Oh no! This made me laugh when I wrote it down, and it's made me laugh again. Explored the unpredictable middle aisle of the Aldi supermarket with. Anyone who hasn't been into an Aldi's, they do have quite a random middle aisle where you can buy all sorts of things like, I don't know, possibly discontinued brand of sunscreen and blankets and colouring in pens and just random things. But what is an ancient desert? How can an ancient desert explore the unpredictable middle aisle of the Aldi supermarket? And who with? Or what with? Next word is from Sophie de Soles. Knitted. Okay. This might be the weirdest one of the day. You can only hope. Final word is from Nicholas Bozzo. Demigod. A knitted demigod. Wow, that on its own. That's bizarre. So a demigod being a creature, a character with partial or lesser divine status. Could be an offspring of a god and a mortal, or a mortal who's raised to a divine rank. So just kind of in between. Ambitious, possibly. Maybe they've been knocked down from... They're either knocked down from a higher position or they've been brought up from another, from a lower. So altogether, we have the ancient desert explored the unpredictable middle aisle of the Aldi supermarket with the knitted demigod. Okay, so now the knitted demigod has become a random thing that's being sold in the middle aisle of Aldi. Because that's pretty random. I mean, I haven't seen any knitted demigods. I've seen blankets and weird-looking socks, but, that they can branch out. Anything can happen in this middle aisle. And somehow an ancient desert explores this place using a knitted demigod. There's this word with again, just every now and then crops up. It's like, what do you mean by with? Do you mean using as a tool or a means by which to do that thing or go to that place? Or do you mean going along with, two characters going together? Which is especially difficult to imagine because our first character, if it's going to be a character, is a place, an ancient desert. Are we talking about someone from the ancient desert? Or is this a bizarre clash of utterly different realms, a desert and a supermarket? Is the knitted demigod a soft toy? Because of this clash, have Aldi become too random in the products that they try to sell in this unpredictable middle aisle? Has it become a kind of vortex or a portal between the two places, causing two worlds that could not be further apart from each other to overlap somehow? Okay, well, I'm going to have some more green tea and I'm going to use the pause button, and this is my challenge, I will write a scene based on one of these bizarre exquisite corpses. Wish me luck. What do humans feel? Everything and nothing. Even those who seek numbness at the bottom of a glass feel the call again. It's inevitable. Anaesthetised by a glass of wine, the next flutter of excitement is already on its way, and when it comes, they will follow like children jumping after bubbles. A smile, a kiss, the promise of a kiss, will pull them harder than ropes steering a galley ship, tilting them after. And who is the captain of this ship? What? Are you looking at me? I'm just a dear old lady running a tea shop. The door jangles. Here he is again. Jim, the old sea captain, is restless. He haunts my tea shop of an afternoon, still wearing that cap of his, shirt sleeves rolled up to show the tattoos that smudge and bleed into his wrinkled arms. His eyes, though they crinkle at the corners in a smile, are still the same black holes, empty, roving over my shelves for something new, or perhaps something old, remembered. My large booking for the afternoon left not 5 minutes ago, ladies tugging birthday balloons after them, their laughter whipped away by the sea breeze as they clattered out. Perfect timing. It's as if he knew. I think he senses there's something different about my tea shop. He likes to sample different teas. No, that's not it. He's searching for something. We are alone, and he asks, "What else do I have? What has he not tried?" Though he likes something new each time, it's always the same story he tells. I turn my back on him to consider my array of jars. That night on the sea, when his cruise ship went down, visions he cannot shake, and he the only survivor. Why does he tell me? Done with drowning his grief in a pint glass, is he looking for another solution, a non-alcoholic one? Does he think I have the answer? He would be right. I scour the shelves. The poor man has tasted so much guilt in his life. I would never bring down those jars of curl-leafed blends from the top shelf, not for him. He's tried blends that inspire joy, contentment, bliss. A zingy variety, you have to keep the lid on tight and scoop quickly, for the leaves tend to float out of their own accord. But nothing satisfies this man. Still he returns to my shop, the way he returns to the same story, the same old regret. It holds him in its jagged tooth maw, a maw I know only too well. If a story will not let go, well then, let's tell it again. Let it stir the waters of memory, hunger, and wish until we can find a new ending. I reach for an unlabeled jar. I will not tell him that it contains fear. For if we must face the truth once more, let us swallow what frightens us, lest it swallows us. I unscrew the lid, spoon the leaves into the teapot, and set the kettle boiling. As Jim begins to tell the tale, the croak of his voice melds into the creak and snap of wood collapsing. I let my thoughts drift through his words, back through time, and remember it in my own way. The cruise ship rumbling its propellers deep into the water. The engine in its underbelly sending vibrations right through. And the rabble on board laughing and clinging to their hats. Fools to think that they could ride the waves like that, sitting on top of it all in their best shirts and dresses, sipping cocktails and looking down on it, as if it were their domain. Behind the laughter, their eyes were glazed with their own distractions, delusions, longings. A ridiculous barman juggling limes for a few tips. If only they'd stepped onto shore into my cafe, I could have taken them deeper. A teapot can brew something more wondrous and terrible than you will ever find at the bottom of a glass. But what am I saying? This was before I had a tea shop, before I could even hold a teacup. I was younger then, hungrier. The rumbles of the ship judded through my skin, an awful din. Softly, from the bottom of the ocean, I unfolded. Pumping my limbs, I drew closer to the surface, scattering fish either way, tasting the sun's rays. A black shape blotted the light. Propellers thundering, chopping the water. I wriggled closer to the smooth end of the vessel, reached a long tentacle over it. Screams slipped over my skin, their hot, delicious trails fast like an ice cream melting. Pain leapt into my exposed limb as those idiots began hitting and stabbing me with whatever they could find. Fists, smashed glasses, fire extinguishers, chairs. I levered, pulled my weight. The bubbles rumbled from the deeps as the screams turned to shrieks and grew hoarse. They say the sea never stands still. Jim, the old captain, has swallowed enough regret ever since, no matter what tea he was drinking. The only one to swim to shore when there was no one left to be saved. He watches me pour the tea, then takes what he wants. A sip, a gulp, and more. Setting down the cup with a crack that breaks the handle. Snap, he is gone, wrenched out of his seat, my shop, the world. He joins the churn of the ocean with the rest of them. He goes where his guilt takes him, not once looking back, to where he'll find peace, where he can take my place at the bottom of the ocean. I've taken to brewing gentler blends these days. Tea is not for everyone. The gentle brew that warms the heart and the fingertips, nor the one that makes you gaze out the window and wonder. Those who are restless, unforgiven, may hanker for something stronger. Seek what you will at the bottom of a glass, but only lift the lid off a teapot if you want to know what's inside. And that is how the frightened teapot watched as the boat sailed past, carrying the lightweight juggler. Except it didn't really sail past, did it? And the teapot sort of watched, but not with the ordinary kind of watching. But still, let's face it, I never would have written this story if it hadn't been for this particular random combination of words. Thank you for your words, listeners. Now, what shall I suggest for your ideas for next time? I'm thinking, either the knitted demigod, if you're in the mood for some humour, I reckon, or how about the ancient desert? That sounds intriguing. You know what to do. Go to annatizard.com, click the contact button on any page footer, and write me a short scene or a few lines to describe your idea. A paragraph is ideal. Please just get it to me by the Friday after this show is released so that I receive it in time to record. Also, don't forget, the second of my 2 Spotlight Indie podcast interviews is now on YouTube. Links in the show notes. And while they are up indefinitely, my Inglenook short story is available only in August, so make sure you find a gap where you can treat yourself to a quick read at annatizard.com/weird. Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstoryum. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.